I want to welcome you back to the DeLo Show. I am your host, Ryan DeLozier, and I know, it's been a while since I've been here. It's been getting busy. So I know I was a pretty steady stream of bringing out podcasts every weekday, and last week I didn't get one out. So it's just been a busy week, and got a free time here. And I did see a new episode. I'm always checking stuff. I just haven't had time to be able to record anything. So I thought I'd bring you something here. Probably going to be about one a week here for a while here now. I'm just in my busy season, being the spring. So, but I did see this one came out. Today is going to be an Operation Net Nanny update, and I covered these. I had several. We covered quite a few of these episodes. I'm actually going to take a look and see which ones I covered. I know that there was one where I had worked right alongside Fred Thompson, and he was one that was caught up in the Operation Net Nanny. So it's a sting that was done by the Washington State Patrol, and they caught, kind of like to the old To Catch a Predator. So where they, police officers, instead of being, Chris Hansen from NBC, it was the state police. So, and there's several of these that I had. So I had the Net Nanny files, I had the Scout Predator, the Science of the Sting, and then there was the SB 5312 and Operation Net Nanny. There was quite a few of these, the Olympia Loophole and Persistence of a Predator. I had quite a few episodes that I covered on this one here. So those go back to, if you want to go back and give those a listen, that was early February when I covered a lot of those, so you can check those out. They're available in the feed. Just go ahead and go back and take a look, and so you'll be able to hear those again as to what I was covering back then. So the latest update that I have for us, though, is that on Wednesday, March 25th of 2026, the legal road ended for 40-year-old Lucas Noe Martínez. He was sentenced by Judge Shane Silverthorne to a maximum of 7.5 years to life in prison for attempted first and second degree child rape. And so this was from the Yakima Herald. Lucas Noe Martínez will have to spend at least 7.5 years in prison for attempted rape, though he continues to maintain his innocence. Yakima County Superior Court Judge Shane Silverthorne told Martínez during his sentencing hearing Wednesday that his time in prison could be longer, depending on his attitude when the Sentencing Review Board looks at his case. Here's a quote right here. It says, "Those who say they didn't do it are classified as unamendable to treatment," Silverthorne warned the 40-year-old Martínez. "That is something you are going to have to work through with them." Martínez, a White Swan man, and so if you're wondering where White Swan is, it's south of Yakima. So if you're not from the Washington, or if you're not from the Washington area, Northwest area, White Swan is out on the Yakima Indian Reservation. So you head down towards Wapato, which I've talked about in some other episodes, and you, from Yakima, and you head west. So anyways, a White Swan man who was convicted in January of attempted first and second degree child rape as part of an undercover online sting operation will also remain under state supervision and be required to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. He was one of 15 men arrested in Operation Net Nanny in Yakima in November of 2019. So, as I've said before, the wheels of justice move quite slowly. We're looking at November of 2019, and that was over 6 years ago. So, yeah, quite a while back. No real children were involved in the law enforcement operation. In the operation, Washington State Patrol detectives working with Yakima police went online using different personas to lure out men looking to have sex with children, and then arranged for them to come to a home in Yakima where they were placed under arrest. Specifically in Martínez's case, he responded to an ad on Craigslist from a woman who was looking for family fun. When Martínez responded, a State Patrol detective posing as a woman said she was looking for an older man to sexually mentor her 13 and 11-year-old daughters in the same way she was by an older relative. This is kind of the same tactic they used on Fred Thompson to be able to nail him. So this is pretty sick that someone would actually be looking for this. So anyways, I continue. When Martinez indicated he was willing to and described the sex acts he would perform on the girls, he came to the Yakima house bringing the items the mother instructed him to bring, including condoms and lubricants. So this is kind of how this is different from, say, the To Catch a Predator. So To Catch a Predator, when you watch those on NBC back in the day, I don't know if they're still available or not, but they would pose as children, and then get these guys to come to the house, and then all of a sudden Chris Hansen would come out, and he would be there, as they'd be expecting to see, a girl, and Chris Hansen's there, and he talks to them about stuff, the people who are there, and then the cameras all swarm in. And in the case of this one, these are not set up for high TV drama. This is set up for a conviction. So he brings, like these people that are coming to these houses, they're bringing with them the materials that are necessary to be able to perform the act. So they are showing up, and then there's also this intent to do something. So this is how they nail these guys. When Martinez indicated he was willing and described the sex acts he would perform on the girls, he came to the Yakima house bringing the items to the mother the mother had instructed him to bring, including condoms and lubricants. I mentioned that already. So Martinez's case was prosecuted by the State Attorney General's office at the request of Yakima County Prosecuting Attorney Joe Brusick. Assistant Attorney General Theodore Smith asked Silverthorne to impose sentences of 105 months to life. So he can be in there, for the 7.5 years, but it can be added on to. So this particular sentence could be extended for the attempted rape charge, and 89 months to life for the second-degree rape charge to run concurrently. So Smith said the minimum sentences represent the middle of the state sentencing range and reflect the state's effort to have Martinez go through rehabilitation before he can be considered for release by the Intermediate Sentencing Review Board. Without Mr. Martinez taking responsibility and his lack of community ties, the state is not confident that he will be able to complete treatment. So they're just thinking that he's not going to be able to do this. Like, he didn't take responsibility for his actions, and he's also just kind of refusing the treatment that goes along with it. So at the trial, Martinez maintained that he didn't go to the house to rape the girls, but to rescue them from their sex trafficking mother. Wow, this great guy going and finding these people on Craigslist and then saving them from the abuse that they're going to get from other people. What a just great individual, right? You guys all believe that? I don't think I do. All right, so from the night of the arrest, so there's a letter that went along with this. Greg Scott, Martinez's attorney, told Silverthorne he was frustrated after talking to jurors after the trial, hearing that they questioned why Martinez didn't take other steps to protect the girls he believed were being sex trafficked, including calling police or even his own father, whom Martinez described as a Child Protective Services investigator. Scott said the jury illegally shifted the burden of proof from the prosecutors on to Martinez with these arguments. While he cannot appeal that, he wanted Silverthorne to take it into consideration in coming up with a sentence. The whole point of not calling his father was proving Martinez was a good person who could do good things, Scott said, and calling his father would have defeated that. Scott argued that Martinez tried to report the ad to Craigslist, but it was never taken down because he said the free online classified ad website was cooperating with the police in the investigation. The officers running the sting were professional liars and con men and women who have spent decades perfecting their craft, Scott said, and Martinez is just an ordinary guy. Scott brought out the letter that Martinez wrote the night of his arrest, in which he apologizes to the girls for not getting to the house in time to rescue them. Martinez said the letter, which was not introduced during his trial, would serve as his statement at sentencing. The fact that even after being arrested, Martinez still believed there were children in danger shows what an effective web of lies the detective spun for Martinez, Scott argued. He then asked Silverthorne to go below the standard range and set the minimum at 3 years, pointing out that Martinez would be under constant state supervision when he is released from prison. The judge also had some comments to go along with this. So Silverthorne agreed with Smith that the jurors did not shift the burden of proof onto Martinez when they questioned why he didn't take other actions to rescue the girls. He said it was reasonable for the jury, as they examined the factual evidence, to examine all other options. Martinez had to report suspected abuse, as well as multiple opportunities he was afforded to back out of the rendezvous at the house. Silverthorne said there was justifiable skepticism by the jurors that Martinez was also heading over in hopes of having sex with the woman, even though she clearly stated that the only ones he would be having sex with were the children. I think most of us are pretty abhorred by the idea, and perhaps Mr. Martinez was himself, Silverthorne said. The Net Nanny defendants who took plea bargains, Silverthorne said, received sentences ranging from a couple of months to only a couple of years in prison, while those who took their cases to juries wound up with harsher sentences, including some that are indeterminate. If the risk you take, it's a risk you take when you exercise your constitutional right to a trial, Silverthorne said. So those are just, that was from the Yakima Herald-Republic, so just an update there to go along with that in this particular case. Martinez's case was unique. His attorney, Greg Scott, argued that Martinez wasn't looking for kids. He was looking for an adult woman. So this was his argument right there. Instead of going in, getting the girls, he was actually going there, even though he responded to an ad that was a mother who needed her 11 and 13-year-olds to be mentored. He was after the woman. At least he tried to convince a jury of that. When he realized she was pimping her kids, he supposedly went to the house to gather evidence and rescue them. He even wrote an apology letter to the fictional girls for not stopping their abuse sooner. Yeah, so that's, yep. The evidence, though, tells a different story. When he arrived at the house on November 17th of 2019, he brought the items to the mother that she had requested, though instead of other silver dollars, he had 2 Canadian toonie coins. Judge Silverthorne wasn't moved by the hero narrative, warning Martinez that maintaining his innocence takes him to the unamendable to treatment, which we had mentioned before already. So he's like, because he's saying he's innocent, they're probably guessing that he's not going to be rehabilitated behind bars while he's in there. So he could be in there for quite longer than this 7-year minimum that he already has set for him as well. While Martinez is headed to prison, one name from the original list remains a ghost. So we still have one individual out there that we are looking for. He is currently a felony. Did not jump in. Did not report when he was supposed to. It's Rakinder Singh Randhawa, and in 2019 he was 26 years old in Sunnyside, facing charges of attempted child rape and commercial sex abuse of a minor. He failed to appear for his court dates and currently has an active bench warrant out for him. He walked away from his day in court and has been at large ever since. So that's just one of the cases where, that out of these 15 from 2019, from the Operation Net Nanny case that happened here in Union Gap. Then there's also Vin Nikolai Gaidaichuk. He was the first to face a jury trial and is currently serving his 7 years to life in prison. So all of these right here, like they have a minimum sentence that these guys do have to spend in prison, and then they can get reevaluated as to whether or not they are ready to come out. So they could be in jail for life, even though there was no. That's kind of one of the things right here I did cover. There is a bill that's coming out because there's not really a victim in these cases. They don't think that these guys should be able to should automatically have to have a life, like being able to have to report for life. So, but if there was a victim there, I mean, yeah, does it really make a difference? Like I think it's better that we didn't have to actually abuse a girl for these guys, because their intent was there, that they went there with stuff to be able to do. So if there was a child there, just because there wasn't a child there, even though they knew that there was going to be, should the case be any different? That's what I think. It's 5371. I'm not 100% sure of the name of that case, but I'm going to take a look here real quick just to see. So, and see if I can find it. I had SB, and it is 5312. So SB 5312. I'll look that up here just to kind of see what it is. So 5312 in Washington State. And it's concerning net nanny operations involving fictitious minors. So the bill as it is, first reading happened on January 16th, and there was a public hearing on the 27th. In the 2026, that was last year in the 2025 session. So in the 2026 regular session, it's in the Senate, and by resolution it was reintroduced and retained in present status. The bill, you can find it online and you can go check it out. I don't know if there's like a maybe I can find just a summary of what it is right here, and I'll let you know what it covers. Just kind of I want to get my facts straight. So Washington Senate Bill 5312, the 2025-2026 session, it focuses on individuals convicted in net nanny sting operations involving fictitious minors. It's aiming to reduce registration and supervision requirements. So it proposes a 5-year sex offender registration period, so it's down from the 10 plus years that go along that a lot of these people have been getting as well, and a 3-year community supervision for those with no prior sex offenses. The key provisions that are in this, so there's reduced registration, so it limits sex offenders registration to 5 years for individuals convicted in the internet sting operations involving fictitious minors if they have no prior sex offenses. Supervision requirements, so it reduces the community supervision for individuals receiving an indeterminate sentence in these operations to 3 years. It applies specifically to cases where law enforcement poses as a minor online, distinguishing these cases from offenses involving actual minors. And the goal of this is to attempt to create more proportional legal consequences for those specific cases. So the bill was introduced in the Senate in January 16th of 2025, and Public Hearing Committee and Law and Justice on September 27th of 2025. So yeah, this one's currently in there. I did cover this one back in a previous episode. You can go back and take a look at that a little bit more in depth if you'd like as well too. And so just a few others right here. So quick status checks on some of the rest of the net nanny list. There's Hayden Erlinson. He was convicted in 2023 and is currently serving 6 years and 4 months to life. There was Bradley Vincent Shawner. And he's sentenced to nearly 6 years after an Alford plea, meaning that he maintains his innocence but admits the state had enough evidence to convict him. There's John Bradley Raymond, who pleaded guilty to attempted second-degree child rape, and he is sentenced to just over 6 years. There's Kendrick Yallop Littlebull, and he pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit first-degree child molestation and sentenced to over 3 years. And Christian Hernandez received a 17-month sentence, though his defense argued he originally thought he was meeting a 26-year-old. So we can't talk about these, these sentences again without going back to the Senate bill. So just kind of cover that here one more time. It's currently being pushed by 4 Western Washington senators, and the senators that are pushing this bill, which I had mentioned in a previous episode, Lisa Wellman, Noel Frame, Tawana Nobles, and Claire Wilson. They're all pushing this, and they're all, if they're from the other side of the state. All of these individuals, I mentioned them in a previous episode, but they're all from the west side of the state. But these particular net nanny cases that happened here in our state, they happened in Yakima. The people drove. There was actually one individual that drove from Bremerton, which is on the west side of the state, to Yakima for the purpose of meeting I think it was an 11 or 13-year-old, which happened to be Washington State Patrol and the SWAT team instead. This bill aims to slash penalties for net nanny-style stings because no real child was involved. If it passes, the lifetime supervision that men like, Fred Thompson, which I had mentioned before, the guy that I had worked with in a Union Gap, guy who'd ran for the city board, wanted to be on the city council in Union Gap. Yeah, and so he was similar to this case right here for Lucas Noe, that he wanted to go and meet. It was a mom's ad who was basically pimping out her 11 and 13-year-old. If this bill passes, like I had mentioned, the lifetime supervision for people like this would be erased, and it's a battle between Seattle-based legislation and Yakima-based justice. As these cases, as we are, getting some of these cases wrapped up, the legal landscape is shifting. Is it justice or is it a loophole? So, again, this is another case that I covered, so you can go back and listen to some of these as well too. I did enjoy covering these Operation Net Nannies, and as we still keep coming along, I'm going to keep coming back to them as well. But in the meantime, I'm some other cases as well too that I'm looking at. we got a few that are coming up in the next couple months. There was a lot of stuff coming up in May that I just covered recently towards the end of some of my most recent episodes. We have a lot of pending cases coming up, so I have a feeling the docket's going to be pretty heavy here in the next couple of weeks. So I'll still try to get an episode out a week, try to let you know what's going on. In the meantime, I hope you are having fun out there. If there's other things that you want to hear from me, go ahead and reach out on the socials and send me a message through Instagram or Facebook at The DeLo Show. Hope you're having a great day and take care of yourself.